field lined up, and after several warm-up laps, now ready for the start of the Castrol Australian International Kart Grand Prix final. 30 laps around the 863-metre Oran Park Kart circuit. And what a quality field it is. The best from Australia, from New Zealand, from many countries in Europe and from Japan. Coming round now to the line, and they're away. Green light is late, but that's at the end of this corner, and so they're given the start. Alessandro Zanardi, number 5, leading away from Schuman from Holland.
But it's Schuman in the lead. Schuman's taken over already.
In fact, Schuman, I think, is back in third place. Looking at 47 there is Greg McGuinness. There's number 7, back in third.
So in the lead, yes, it's Steve Gustavsson who's taken over the lead from third position on the grid.
Great start.
Behind him now is Zanardi. And then comes Schuman in third slot. So a huge start from Gustavsson.
Gustavsson, just 21 years old, Swedish and Scandinavian champion in class Formula Nordic, has a very busy time indeed at the moment and has lost first place, so that it's now the man who is on pole position, Zanardi, who really has had the running of this international field throughout the meeting. It's been a very busy weekend at Oran Park.
Of the 4 events contested so far, Zanardi has won 3 of them and come third in the other when his tyres started to go off. But it was a planned third place. He knew his tyres would start to go before he even went out in the race. But the officials insist that only 2 sets of tyres be used in this racing, and so he had no option but to race on cooked tyres. But boy, what a job he's doing. Only 19 years of age, regarded as probably the fastest sprint car racer in the world after the man who couldn't come this weekend,
Stefano Modena.
Yes, indeed, who's broken his leg in a Formula 3 accident in Italy.
In fact, Zanardi was the most successful 100cc competitor in the world last year. He won 1 round of the European Championships, then withdrew from the last round so that he would not be given a super license. He got a super license. He wouldn't be eligible for this class.
Yeah, it's racing for second place there, Will. Sorry to interrupt, but what a fantastic race between Stig Gustavsson in 10 and Kart 7, Schuman. Schuman almost diving underneath.
In fact, contrary to what you might expect from a Swede, it's not Stig, but Steve Gustavsson. Rather like Stephen Johansson driving for Ferrari.
And then there in 4th position is the 4 times world champion, Mike Wilson. Had a rotten weekend when he just couldn't get the symbiosis right between his tyres and his chassis. Has moved to Bridgestone tyres from the Dunlop soft tyres that he brought out, and just hasn't been able to get the job right. But Wilson now is really going for it in 4th slot. 26 years of age, 4 times world champion, lost it in 1984 only when he broke down with just 1 lap to go whilst leading the world title. And his ambition in kart racing is to equal the 5 times world champion record.
That's held by Francois Goldstein. And indeed, Wilson very keen to do that. He's from Barnsley in Yorkshire, same place as Michael Parkinson. But he's been living in Italy for about 8 years, ever since he started kart racing. And a very, very successful driver indeed. Having a very difficult weekend, but like the professional that he is, persevering. And the trouble has been that the Dunlops he brought with him haven't been suited to our weather conditions and track surface. The Bridgestones he switched to have been giving him too much grip on a track which is very, very sticky. And in fact, almost breaking up at that point where they loop off the bridge and come down Yamaha Hill, and also at the apex of the next corner. And so the engine's been bogging down, coming right off its power band, and he's been having a very difficult time.
The appearance of the 9 international drivers in this Castrol kart meeting today has really stirred the possum. No fewer than 26 drivers in this 32 capacity field were under the lap record in practice. And would you believe 1 second only separated the top 19. Wilson still in 4th position. There's Kart 7, Schuman just in front of him.
Well, if you wonder how popular karting is, there were 53 karts entered for this race for a maximum 32 possible starters. And of course through heats and pre-finals, which set the grid positions, no more than that. For this one, they've come down to a very hot field of 32. They include people like 7-time Australian champion Drew Price, now a Toyota Works driver, did all the Group A Touring Car Championship last year, and then the endurance races with John Smith. Manufactures some 400 karts a year, and throughout Australia, some 7,000 people racing karts in a population of 15 million people, where in Italy, less than half that number race karts for a population obviously many times that of Australia. We're looking at the moment, number 7, Schuman, Dutchman, late entry for the meeting, and has been going very well indeed.
And as we see Zanardi go through in the lead, 3.51 seconds separates first place Zanardi back to 4th position Mike Wilson on lap 20 on lap 10 with 20 to go.
The man we should be watching a little bit further back in the field, but getting ever closer to the front, is Munkholm. He was the fastest qualifier, Gert Munkholm. He's in kart number 9. He started in 12th grid position. A lap ago, he was 6th. He's now 5th and flying towards the front, and still with plenty of laps to threaten the leaders. Fastest qualifier, fastest lap so far has been 35.4.
And Wilson's stopping. Wilson's out of the kart race. Just saw a flash of him on the left there. There he goes. Oh, what a great shame.
Here's Munkholm. He was the fastest qualifier yesterday. Best time of 35.42, very similar to the time just done in the race by Zanardi, 35.4. This man's flying. Look at him, leaping and jolting the kart sideways.
And should you think that Dino should be an Italian kart, in fact it's made in Denmark by Finn Jorgensen, who is here today to watch the performance of his works karts, as indeed are a lot of the team managers and owners.
Well, first and second at the moment are DAP karts from Italy. Second, third and fourth are Dino karts, and DAP stands for D'Angelo Parilla, and he is the man that discovered Ayrton Senna, who of course now is just a sensation of Formula One car racing. And he was telling me about a friend of his who said, come and see this Brazilian. And he went and saw him race, brought him to Italy. He said, this guy really is something. In 6 laps at the very... Oh my goodness! Munkholm, how quick is he, as we see Wilson retired in 1 in the background. Senna in 6 laps at the very difficult Palmer circuit went faster than anybody had ever been before. Still stays with D'Angelo Parilla, who I think in some obscure way is related to Parilla engines.
Not obscure at all. His dad, in fact, owned Parilla engines.
That's right, sold it out some years ago.
And then once D'Angelo had been through university, he started his own rival company.
But Munkholm really is going well.
And Munkholm in 4th position is only 3.39 seconds behind the leader, and they're bunching. So that's 3rd place directly in front of him at the moment.
Look how he's clipping corners. Look how often he gets it up onto 2 wheels. Got the Dino kart flying, but they still are 3rd and 4th. It's still 2 daps in 1st and 2nd.
Steve Gustavsson is in 3rd position. That's him in the blue. So Munkholm is really starting to apply the pressure. Whoa! Power to the ground is what it's all about, not power in the air.
Toyota Works driver Drew Price is 5th. In number 22, and John Pizarro, 9 times Australian champion, compared with Drew Price's 7, is 6th on 43. And in 37, Russell Becker is next, followed by number 3. And that's Russell Ingalls, who is current Australian champion. Looking there at Zanardi, leading at the moment, but I don't think that necessarily stay the same all through the 30 laps. Still, as you can see, heading by not a great margin, Schuman, the man from the Netherlands.
16 laps down, 14 remaining.
Which means it's a 25.9 kilometre race distance. They're covering this at around 100 kilometres an hour average.
36.07 seconds was the lap time done by Zanardi that time round.
And he's very neat indeed. Gets it up on the two wheels occasionally, very casually, reaches over to his right, chokes it just a little bit into corners. Europeans tend to run a little bit leaner in their mixture and use more of the choking. The Australians tend to run it a little bit richer. And that is the safe way in terms of engine reliability, and therefore don't have to do as much manual choking of the engines generally. There he goes, choking it again. Down to the carburettor. An enormous amount of adjustment available in karts. You wouldn't think so to look at them, but there are spaces to move the wheels in and out, front or rear. There's little anti-roll bars, those ones just below the foot pedals, at the front and at the rear, to stiffen or loosen up the chassis to allow it to twist more or to stiffen it. There is a spacer to lengthen or shorten the exhaust, to tune that. There are even means of adjusting the carburettor as you're driving around, and some these days with a little digital instrument, electronic, in the middle of the steering wheel worth about $400, which gives them temperature at the spark plug and also engine revs. And as they get the temperature down, that's the exact best mixture to be running with. So we look again at Schuman
in second position and seemingly unable to make any impression on Zanardi in the lead.
11 laps remain. 19 has been completed. The Hong Kong Kart Prix, a very important race on the international calendar. Believe it or not, at Le Mans, the home of the 24-hour endurance race of sports cars, there is also a 6-hour race for karts. Seems unbelievable. I don't quite know how they do that. But Zanardi, one of a number of drivers. The interesting thing is, you imagine perhaps that people are urging to get out of this class of motorsport into something else. But Zanardi is one who wants to stay, not just in karts, but in the 100cc class. He says the 135 World Championship class, not enough competitors, it's not enough fun, it's not hard enough. Where there might be 20 or 30 in the world final in the international 135 class, he might have 120 in this, and he said that's really tough work. I like that. Same thing for car racing. These guys can be competitive with about $2,000 odd, although the serious ones in Europe, the perhaps 5 top runners in the world, with the engines they'd go through, the constant changes of chassis and so on, they might spend as much as $40,000 a year. And the bad news on Gert Munkholm, number 9, is that he's out. He was in 4th place for a while, slipped then to 5th place. In fact, slipped right down, straight out of 4th place 3 laps ago.
But this challenge for the lead is starting to hot up. Zanardi and Schuman have opened a reasonable advantage on the rest of the field. And we're really starting to go for it. Zanardi still having the advantage of just that slight gap back to Schuman, which enables him to take the right lines into corners, not to block, to be able to be easy on his tyres. But look how much faster Schuman is up over the rise onto the Goodyear Bridge. But then how Zanardi blocks down here. And in one of the heats earlier today, I was watching Zanardi when he was on 4 tyres, and the man suddenly made his car 20 feet wide and was the hardest thing to pass I've ever seen. I would say that even if Schuman can get right up on him, that he's going to have the devil's own time getting through.
Still behind this pair, and in 3rd place, Steve Gustavsson in number 10, are the 2 Australians. The 7 times Australian champion Drew Price on 22, and a 9-times Australian champion, John Pizarro, in, I reckon, at least his middle 40s, number 43. Fifth, and behind them in sixth is Russell Ingles, the current Australian champion. Then it's Russell Becker in 37, 34. Number 34 is Michael Strudwick. And in number 31 then, behind him, is Rod Green. Interesting competitor running down in the field at this stage, but the fastest female driver in Europe, 18-year-old Swede, Maria Radney. She's on cart number 11. We might see her later in the race.
She's a high school student in Stockholm. Her dad's here with her this weekend as well. He's one of the importers of the Dino kart and makes quite a deal of money out of karting, more so than most of the competitors, who really aren't paid all that much to do this. In fact, if they pick up expenses from their sponsors, it's really what it's all about.
So Gustavsson doing a good job, but not able to peg back Alessandro Zanardi. There she is, Maria Radney, number 11. Very competitive female driver indeed, not having as good a run today as she's used to, but just out of juniors, in fact, in Europe. Member of the Swedish national karting team. It was expected that she'd have a big clash here with Japan's Mrs. Junko Yamamoto, whose husband is competing today. She's here. She decided not to run. So Maria Radney's got the female section of the race to herself. Close, as you can see, to number 28, who is Pat Assailant, Queensland.
And there's the race leader, Alessandro Zanardi. And right behind him is Kart 7, Hans Schuman. And Schuman closing in, only 2.5 laps remaining. And anything can happen here as Schuman comes up behind him down the bridge. Oh, a bit of discussion between the two drivers. And Schuman backs off ever so slightly from Zanardi. And the answer fairly simply is, of course, that their teammate, Schuman, was drafted into the team by D'Angelo Perilla.
Drew Price, with only 5 kart meetings under his belt last year, whilst concentrating on touring car racing in Group A, is now...
Oh, and there goes Schuman, he's off. And he's lost his back wheel.
That's
Surely
out.
He can't get round for the rest of the
Well, even if he can, there's no way, because there's just not the time. So that's the end of the race for Hans Schuman. He might get it back to the pits in terms of returning to the mechanics.
Checkered flag coming out. Checkered flag now for Alessandro Zanardi, gets the win. Second place, let's look back to it. And there he goes, he's got it. Second place goes to Kart 7, Harm Schuman. Or does it?
He did have it up to half a lap from the end of the 30-lap race, and then the left rear tyre rolled off the rim. He took to the shrubbery, regained very well indeed, and was able to limp to the finishing line, but in the process, second place had been taken by Steve Gustavsson for Dino. So he came through to second. No question about the winner, Alessandro Zanardi, almost